The art of influence. Mastering social skills in high-stakes environments in today's competitive corporate landscape. Social acumen has become as crucial as technical expertise for executives navigating complex professional environments. This guide delves beyond basic conversation techniques to explore advanced strategies for building influence through strategic relationship management. Whether you're negotiating boardroom deals or forging cross-functional partnerships, your ability to connect authentically while maintaining executive presence can determine career trajectories. These refined social competencies enable leaders to shape organizational culture from within. Cultivating executive presence through subtle cues. A strong executive presence isn't merely about confidence, it's an intricate blend of nonverbal communication, active listening, and contextual awareness. Your posture, eye contact patterns, and even vocal modulation send powerful messages without uttering a single word. Studies show that leaders who maintain open body language during meetings are perceived as more approachable by 68% of participants, according to Harvard Business Review research. However, authenticity must remain at the core. Forced gestures often backfire when detected. Maintain consistent head position. Avoid excessive nodding or shaking, which may signal uncertainty or overagreement. Vary vocal inflection. Monotone speech diminishes credibility, but overly theatrical delivery risks appearing insincere. Use deliberate hand movements. Gestures should complement verbal points rather than overshadow them. Developing these micro-expressions requires conscious practice. Record yourself during mock presentations and analyze how your physicality aligns with intended messaging. Notice how subtle shifts in stance affect perceived authority levels. Contextual adaptability is equally vital. What works in a startup pitch might not translate well to formal shareholder meetings. Observe successful executives in different settings to identify patterned behaviors associated with effective leadership presence. Strategic listening beyond surface conversations. Active listening transcends mere auditory processing. It involves complete mental engagement with speakers' perspectives. True strategic listeners extract unspoken meanings beneath spoken words while preparing thoughtful responses that advance conversations toward productive outcomes. Research published in the Journal of Applied Psychology indicates that managers who demonstrate empathetic listening experience 34% higher team productivity. The key lies in combining full attention with analytical interpretation of both explicit statements and implicit cues. To develop this skill, practice the 3-minute reflection technique. After any significant interaction, mentally reconstruct the exchange, focusing first on what was said, then on what wasn't said. Identify potential motivations behind expressed positions. When engaged in high-stakes negotiations, employ the mirroring strategy. Subtly repeat key phrases from counterparts' statements before offering counterpoints. This builds rapport while demonstrating comprehension of their priorities. Be mindful of cognitive biases affecting listening effectiveness. Confirmation bias can lead to selective hearing that reinforces preconceived notions, while the halo effect may cause overvaluation of certain traits based on limited information. Building authentic connections across hierarchies. Establishing genuine relationships across organizational tiers requires nuanced approaches tailored to each level of hierarchy. Direct reports demand transparency and accessibility, whereas senior stakeholders require evidence-based decision-making frameworks. For peer-level interactions, adopt a collaborative mindset emphasizing mutual benefit rather than hierarchical advantage. Recognize that horizontal connections often serve as critical conduits for informal knowledge sharing and innovation diffusion. Implement the value ladder concept. When interacting with superiors, present proposals not as requests but as opportunities aligned with departmental objectives and broader company goals. Frame initiatives in terms of measurable impact rather than personal preferences. With junior colleagues, balance mentorship with respect for their autonomy. Share experiences selectively, focusing on lessons learned rather than prescriptive advice. Encourage initiative taking while providing structured guidance. Regularly schedule informal check-ins with individuals outside your direct reporting chain. These unstructured exchanges foster trust and uncover synergies that formal channels might overlook. Navigating cultural nuances in global interactions. Executive success in multinational environments hinges on cultural intelligence, the ability to interpret and respond appropriately to diverse social norms and values. Missteps in understanding regional customs can undermine credibility despite technically sound business propositions. Contrast Western directness with Eastern relational emphasis. Americans typically prefer straightforward communication, while many Asian cultures prioritize harmony through indirect expression. Adapting your approach without compromising integrity is essential. Before international engagements, conduct thorough cultural due diligence using frameworks like Hofstede's dimensions of national culture. Understand power distance indices, individualism versus collectivism scores, and other relevant metrics. Practice adaptive communication styles by varying formality levels based on cultural expectations. In some contexts, silence conveys thoughtfulness, in others, it signals disengagement. Learn appropriate response times and conversational pacing. Develop emotional resilience against inevitable misinterpretations. Accept that perfect cultural fluency is impossible, but commit to continuous learning through feedback mechanisms and local advisor networks. Mastering the art of persuasive communication. Persuasion at executive levels demands sophisticated psychological strategies rather than simple sales tactics. Effective communicators understand human motivation drivers and craft narratives that resonate with target audiences' underlying needs. Leverage the foot in the door principle by starting with small commitments before progressing to larger asks. Research shows this sequential approach increases compliance rates by up to 50% compared to direct requests. Employ framing techniques that highlight benefits rather than drawbacks. Present options as choices between positive outcomes instead of negative consequences. For example, frame cost reductions as reinvestment opportunities rather than budget cuts. Utilize storytelling to create memorable associations with abstract concepts. People retain stories 22 times longer than factual data alone, making narrative structures ideal for conveying strategic vision. Anticipate resistance by identifying hidden objections early in discussions. Proactively address concerns related to change fatigue, resource allocation, or risk perception before they escalate into barriers. Managing conflicts with strategic diplomacy. Skillful conflict resolution distinguishes exceptional leaders from average performers. Approach disagreements as problem-solving opportunities rather than zero-sum games where one party must lose. Adopt the Thomas Gilman Conflict Mode Instrument Framework to assess optimal negotiation strategies. Choose collaborating mode for win-win solutions, compromising when time constraints limit alternatives, and avoiding only when issues lack immediate urgency. Create safe spaces for dissent by implementing structured debate protocols. Allow opposing viewpoints to be presented systematically before facilitating objective evaluation of merits. Document conflicts in neutral terms to prevent escalation. Focus on observable facts rather than subjective interpretations when summarizing disputes for resolution purposes. After resolving conflicts, follow up with all parties involved to reinforce agreed-upon solutions. This maintains trust and demonstrates commitment to sustainable resolutions rather than temporary fixes. Fostering organizational relationships through networking. Strategic networking extends beyond casual introductions. It's about cultivating mutually beneficial long-term relationships that enhance professional capital. Successful executives recognize that every interaction presents an opportunity to expand their influence network. Apply the Pareto principle to networking efforts. 20% of contacts generate 80% of future opportunities. Prioritize quality over quantity by nurturing deep relationships with key influencers rather than superficial connections with numerous individuals. Attend industry events with clear objectives. Identify 3 people whose expertise complements yours, and arrange follow-up meetings within 48 hours of meeting them. Personalized outreach significantly increases connection acceptance rates. Maintain regular touchpoints through value-added communications, not just updates about your achievements, but also sharing relevant articles, introducing useful contacts, or offering assistance with ongoing projects. Monitor digital footprints strategically. Engage with prospects on LinkedIn with meaningful comments rather than generic endorsements. Build credibility by consistently adding value to online discussions. Ethical considerations in advanced social engagement. While mastering social skills enhances professional effectiveness, ethical boundaries must never be compromised. Integrity remains the foundation upon which all relational capital is built. Resist temptation to use manipulative tactics under guise of persuasion. Ethical influence relies on transparent communication and genuine concern for stakeholders' best interests. Disclose conflicts of interest proactively rather than waiting for questions. Transparency builds trust and prevents reputational damage from perceived improprieties. Exercise caution with shared information. Only disclose sensitive matters when necessary and always consider potential ramifications for all parties involved. Model ethical behavior consistently across all interactions. Actions speak louder than words, and sustained ethical conduct becomes self-reinforcing over time. Continuous development of social competence. Professional growth requires perpetual refinement of interpersonal abilities. Treat social skills development as an ongoing journey rather than a finite checklist accomplishment. Engage in regular self-assessment through 360-degree feedback sessions. Analyze patterns in how others perceive your communication style and adjust accordingly based on constructive criticism. Participate in experiential learning opportunities such as improvisation classes or public speaking workshops. These activities build comfort with spontaneous interactions and enhance adaptive thinking capabilities. Study case studies of successful negotiators and diplomats to understand real-world applications of theoretical principles. Apply observed strategies in controlled environments before deploying them professionally. Join professional associations focused on leadership development to access expert resources and peer support networks dedicated to advancing social competence among executives. Conclusion: advanced social skills constitute a critical pillar of modern executive success, enabling leaders to navigate complex interpersonal landscapes with grace and effectiveness. These competencies empower professionals to build lasting relationships, resolve conflicts diplomatically, and drive organizational progress through strategic influence. By continuously refining your social intelligence quotient, you'll cultivate the magnetic presence required to thrive in today's interconnected business world. Remember, true mastery comes not from memorizing scripts but from developing authentic, adaptable relational intelligence that serves both personal aspirations and collective goals.